Greetings, you're watching Septum Sen versus the World. I'm Septum Sen and I'm here with Kotobuki Jake.
Hi.
We're back from our long hiatus and we are back on track. Matter of fact, starting today, well actually starting yesterday, we are going to be having we're going to have a video up every day of the week.
Ooh.
Well, at least until Friday. And then we're going to go on hiatus again. But after that, I'm going to change houses, and then we're going to be back on track in about 2 weeks. There will be a couple of videos, but it will be a little bit slower paced until we can get everything together.
Mm-hmm.
So this time we thought we would do something special. Kotobuki Jake is actually the expert when it comes to what films are really awesome during award season. He knows what to look for. Me, I just know what I like, and I know what I think, which is kind of different than most people think.
He says that, but last year I called a lot of them wrong. But considering the fact that we don't live in a major hub for art house cinema, we have some art house theaters here, and we get a lot of good stuff. But it's not a major hub. So there's a lot of movies that are in the awards consideration that we could not have seen if we wanted to. Not to mention time, money, the fact that the DVD, Blu-ray release tends to be crowded towards the award season and after. Unfortunately, because a lot of the movie releases tend to be crowded towards the Christmas season. And, you know. So, like, for example, The Phantom Thread is one I really want to see. It is one of the big ones this year. It is Daniel Day-Lewis's swan song. It's supposed to be really good. It opened in, like, 4 theaters on Christmas Day. That's like, how in the hell is the average moviegoer going to see that one before the Golden Globes happened last night? You know? We're barely into January, and some of the big awards are already happening.
Yeah, we've been in, had the Golden Globes, and we're right before the Oscar announcements.
A lot of the Critics Awards have been steadily going along, and some of the movies have been quietly picking up a lot of steam, some not as quietly. And, and if I remember correctly, I think Phantom Thread got a Globe, didn't it? Didn't Day-Lewis get the...
I didn't watch the Globes, I will admit.
I saw the list this morning. I haven't... today, it's been so insane today. I haven't had time to process anything. Very busy day at work. We've had snow this weekend, and my job is affected by snow in some ways. Suffice it to say. But I did look at the winners, and there were some interesting ones. Predictably, The Shape of Water was a winner. Lady Bird was a winner. Some of the ones, Coco, of course, got animated feature. And then on the TV side, I knew Big Little Lies I think it got 3 awards. It's not bad. So I actually saw a TV show that won several Globes before it won. But yeah, we thought it would be fun to talk about the movies of the year. I've seen 39 films that by the rules of the Oscars were 2017 releases. By the rules of normal logic, Your Name was a 2017 release, but by Oscar rules, 2016. I also saw the new Teen Titans movie, The Judas Contract, straight to video, so it doesn't qualify for Oscar, but it was a really good movie, and it was a lot of fun, and that was a 2017 release. So... yeah.
Yep, I'm probably going to substitute one of these for a straight to, because we each came up with like a list of 10. He's got 10 films that he thought were important. I've got 10 films that I thought were also interesting and maybe a little bit important. I think I've counted them up, I've seen 12 theatrical releases for the year.
So you could have done a top 10.
I could have done a top 10.
It would be interesting.
But it'd be interesting. I'm putting out some movies I thought were interesting. But we're going to start with you because you've got the probably better quality list than me.
So are you thinking, like, are we doing one at a time? Or?
Yeah, we'll do one at a time.
Okay. So I'm going to start off. My list is... I have my full ranked list because I do that because I'm a geek. 39 films this year. One of them was a bad movie that's not even worth consideration. That was Fist Fight. several, my top, like 31 to 38, they range from good but not great to decent but not that good. Cars 3 being the top of that, Ghost in the Shell being the last one. Whoa!
Meow meow.
Sorry, Foo. But I have a good top 30. But I'm going to start with the 10 and then try to make some commentary on the others as appropriate. Mm-hmm. Number 10 on my list is Logan. Now, that was a really good movie. Fox has, once they realized with Deadpool that they didn't have to try to make a mindless mass appeal blockbuster, and they gave James Mangold the chance to do what he wanted, which is basically a Western, it worked. Logan is easily the best Wolverine film. That's not saying much compared to the first one. The second one, the Wolverine, was good, but kind of slow. It wasn't very fun.
No.
Logan wasn't very fun either, but it wasn't just like, it just didn't feel drained of fun like the other one did. It felt like it was not fun for a reason. Because it's an elegy. It's a very sad, downbeat film about this guy at the end of his trail. It's kind of like Unforgiven in a way, you know. It's kind of, actually, he probably had that film in mind when he made it. I won't say Logan's as good as Unforgiven. But the idea, to some people, I know it would be. But I will say Hugh Jackman went out great. That was he is good. I originally did not think he was Wolverine. He is not the comics version of Wolverine, but he made it his own, and he did a really good job with it. Patrick Stewart, of course, is great as Xavier, and the only other notable comic characters in the movie, Caliban, X-23, and Daphne Keane was brilliant as their version of X-23. She's an actress to watch. And then I don't remember the dude that plays him, but Donald Pierce, the Reaver, I thought was one of the more fun villains I saw all year. So, it's a good movie. Could have been great. Yeah. But by Fox standards, pretty damn good. And pretty good way to kick off the 10. What happened? So, to you.
Yeah, so I was gonna start off, actually, you know what, I am going to leave one of these out, which is going to be later on the list, because 9 and 10 really need to be combined. But the first one is, we all started off the year with some interesting continuations with series. Some of them are trying to revive a series, and this is one of the things I thought was an interesting part about this year, is there were some endings and there were some tries at beginning again.
That's for sure.
And
some of them fizzled. Some of them did not.
Yeah. The one I've got for number 1 on this is, to start off, is Underworld Blood Wars. Now, this is a series I thought had long died. I mean, I thought that Underworld Awakening was the end. There are currently, let's see, 1, 2, 3, about 4 films, 5 films now in this in the Underworld series. Because there's Underworld, there's Evolution, there's Rise of the Lycans, and there's Awakening. And I can't believe I got all of them. If I'm wrong, correct me in the comments below, because I mostly am a lot of the time. Now, Blood Wars, I have not seen yet. I did buy an Underworld collection not long ago, but I don't know whether that actually has Blood Wars in it. Probably not. But it does have all the other ones in it. But it is sad to see these things revived, and there's going to be a little bit of a sense of revival in my particular numbers. So that's going to be my pick for 1.
Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and move on to my 9th one. Could be considered an out of left field contender. It's one of, I think, 2 legit foreign films that I've seen so far from this year. I saw one last night that I'll be coming up to in the top 10, but I watched the English dub, so that doesn't really count for a foreign language yet. I'll fix that soon. But the first of the first of the two did not make my top 10. Number 15 is a film by Francois Ozon called France. And if you've ever seen anything by Ozon, he's a very strange filmmaker. He's a good filmmaker. And France was a really good movie. But the one that makes my top 10 is by another auteur filmmaker that I've enjoyed, Hirokazu Koreeda. Last year, he just missed my top 10 with a really, really, really wonderful adaptation of the manga Umamachi Diary, which was released here under the title Our Little Sister. It's a great film. And 2004, he had one of the most heartbreaking films I've ever seen, Daremo Shiranai, which is called Nobody Knows, about a group of abandoned children have to fend for themselves. This year, he did a film called After the Storm. The title's a bit misleading. The storm does not arrive until the end of the movie. But basically, it's about an estranged family who are forced to take shelter together during the night of a typhoon. And that's really all there is to it. There's no plot to speak of. But it's a really good character-driven drama, nice little family drama. Koreeda does wonderful films. If you've never seen any, check them out. I need to see some more. Those three are the only ones I've seen, but I liked all three of them. Highly recommend them all. And so After the Storm was definitely one I would push to see. Mm-hmm.
So, again, I'm in this interesting spiral here. And when we get to a couple of the good, the ones that would be considered good, it'll probably be kind of a system shock to people, I guess, over here. But number 2 is, again, about revival. Mm-hmm. We had a series a while back, a movie series called Triple X. No, it's not porn. Don't get your hopes up. And it was sort of like
Vin Diesel freaks out there.
A dark take on the on sort of the James Bond Mission Impossible type series, where you've got these sort of extreme
like
sports people. It's sort of like a James Bond meets Fast and the Furious.
Yeah.
And not the first movie, but like the later movies. So the first movie was actually considered a classic by many as far as action. Then the second movie had Ice Cube in it. It kind of went downhill, apparently. It was alright. State of the Union was okay. And then they decided, we can revive the series. We'll bring back Vin Diesel.
Of course.
So we've got Triple X, The Return of Xander Cage. Now, I've never seen this movie. I've never seen Blood Wars. So far, we're 2 for 2.
Yeah, I think you're skipping all the ones you actually saw.
No. When I get to number 4, I'll see number 4.
It's kind of weird.
So this one actually looks to be entertaining. I may have it, but I don't think I do. I will get it. It's on my list to get because it's one of those that's moved on. I do believe this is probably the end of this series, but I know it's an attempt. I think there's a good chance that Underworld will continue a little bit, sputter on. I really don't think that Triple X will do that. Vin Diesel has other things to do. I mean, Furious 8's coming out.
Well, no. In 2 years, we'll have Underworld, the Revenge of Xander Cage.
Underworld, the spawning. They'll make like little Vin Diesels and.
Oh, Baby Groot. We'll be talking about him soon. All right, my turn.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. The next one is another one that probably flew under a lot of people's radars. I'd never heard of it, and I think you never heard of it until we prepared for a preview 2 months back. But and so if you've been watching our channel, you may have seen our preview. But a few days ago, I had the opportunity to finally watch Band-Aid. And Band-Aid is really good. It's not like a brilliant film, but I just loved it. It's one of those films that, like, I won't necessarily say it's the 8th greatest film of the year, but I was tempted to put it higher because I liked it so much. But the basic idea is you have a married couple played by Adam Pally and Zoe Lister-Jones, and they are always fighting, always bickering. They are on each other's last nerves. They're just really, they don't know what they can do. They go to a marriage counselor, and she just doesn't know what to do with them. And finally, she's like, try being unconventional. And that doesn't do anything right away. And then a few days later, out of nowhere, the wife goes, we should put our fights in a song. And so they start doing that. They form a band and basically use it they channel their arguments through music. And they enlist their weird neighbor, played by Fred Armisen. They call him Weird Dave. And if there's anything in the movie that strains credulity, it revolves around Dave. His 2 roommates particularly. But anyway, mostly it's a very real, honest movie. Oh, wow. It's written, directed, produced, starred, and by Zoe Lister-Jones, and she wrote all the songs, and not to mention performs. She's talented. It was a fun little movie. It's not that long. It does get awkward and uncomfortable in places, and it is the kind of movie that if it doesn't hit you like it hit me, you might find it tedious. But it hit me really good. So Band-Aid is definitely number 8.
So far, I've seen more on your list than you've seen on mine. I've seen more. Okay, well, and I'm going to keep that record up because we're going to go with the end and the beginning. So we're going to actually be dropping off of one thing, but with the thought of renewal. We actually saw 2 in this particular type of thing because there was Resident Evil Vendetta. I think that's Vendetta, which is the 3rd of the animated trilogy. Right. And that one is done with according to what I've been told. But the one that I'm really looking at as my number 3 is Resident Evil: The Final Chapter, which is the final Mila Jovovich Resident Evil film.
For now.
No, she says she is done. She is tired of this character. She wants out. Which I can't blame her. This is like, what, 7?
Something like that.
It's a lot of movies. And I say it's a new beginning because they're already in talks of restarting the series again. Well,
they'll just switch them. They'll have her move over to Underworld and Kate Beckinsale will move over to Resident Evil.
But to me, I've kind of lived with this series forever. I do own this movie. I have not seen that movie yet. Which makes me think I have that Underworld one because I think I got the that complete collection around the same time that Underworld's came out. So both of those are on my list to see. I have to rewatch the whole thing again, and I don't feel like it right now. But I am looking forward to it eventually. I've heard it's an interesting, very high-octane action adventure, much like the others.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it. I got for that.
Well, speaking of high-octane action adventures, going from little bit indie film to one of the biggest films of the year, I actually, number 7, I have Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman was really good. It was phenomenally good by DCEU standards. That's not saying much. The other DCEU film of the year, Justice League, I have at 33 of 39. I know a lot of people would say that's blasphemy. It should have been lower. But I kind of like Justice League. It was all right. It was a step up from Batman v Superman and at least a couple steps up from Suicide Squad. So, but none of them. Wonder Woman was clear. It was out of the, it's like a whole other company made it.
I like Justice League as much as I liked Band-Aid, which means I haven't seen either one of them.
Right. Well, I know you want to. But Wonder Woman's really good. It has some flaws. It's not perfect. But Gal Gadot does a great Wonder Woman. Chris Pine is great as Steve Trevor. David Thewlis does a fine job in his supporting role. I think Lucy Hale is the name of Trevor's assistant who tries to steal every scene she's in. And just generally, it has much more life, much more color to it than any of the other DC films. And it's pretty well put together. The end game twist is well handled. It's a pretty solid film. I liked it more than Logan, which is the main reason it rates higher. They're really about even in terms of quality. But I liked it a lot. Now, from this point on, I'm going to get into like the super high quality films. But definitely those two, in particular, Wonder Woman and Band-Aid, were kind of right there, like really good, not quite Best Picture level, but really good. Yeah.
Speaking of super high quality films, we actually get to the first one I have seen on this list.
One we've both seen.
And this one is one I actually am saddened to it got it nominated, but it didn't really win anything at the Globes, from what I recall.
Up for 2 Globes, didn't win either one, right?
Which is a shame. Of course, we're talking about the musical/comedy Get Out.
That's probably why it didn't win at the Globes.
Much like The Martian was a musical/comedy. This one also seemed to go into that category, which is really sad. Get Out was a very well done.
Yes.
It was done by one half of the comedy duo Key and Peele. Maybe that's why they were, so on to that. But
and it is freaking hilarious at times.
It does have that. It's sort of like it's kind of a Stedford Wives vibe to it.
But better.
But better. I mean, very well written, very well acted. I cannot say enough about this. I feel like it was a game changer in the thriller genre. I really believe that there's bigger and better things that can be built on top of this. I want to see more by this director. I want to see more seriousness by him. If you really want to join a cause on this, this film is worth the cause. I'm hoping this film gets some Oscar love. If anything, nominations. I think it will get a nomination.
I think Jordan Peele's almost guaranteed a screenwriting nod, but it needs more than that.
It does. But I do believe it'll get at least one nomination. Whether it'll get a win, I doubt that, unfortunately.
I think there's a chance of a win in the screenwriting category. But basically, Get Out is actually number 16 on my list, but that does not mean I didn't like it that much. I thought it was a great film. I could see how it would hit some people harder than it did me. It did kind of creep me out. Like I said, there were times that I thought was hilarious, and I got the point. It makes a very scathing point, and it's pretty good. And it's also worth noting that the Metacritic scores have Get Out, according to the critics around the country, Get Out is the top film of the year. I looked through the Metacritic list a few days ago, and I was amazed at some of the stuff that wasn't even on the list. But Get Out is number one, but with a bullet.
It is loved by the people. I know when People's Choice Awards come out, this thing is going to clean up there.
And it also was successful at the box office and has had a very successful post-box office home video life. And actually, I have a copy. I haven't watched my copy yet, but it's... and I will be presenting it on one of my pickup videos in the next month or so. But really good movie. Like I said, it didn't make my top 10, but that doesn't mean I deny that if it gets a Best Picture nod, I'll be pulling for it. Unless something that I really want to see win.
Like there's one of your top 10.
Yes. There's a couple of films that, I'm sorry, my loyalties will go to those films. But, all right.
Oh, you're up.
All right. Speaking of chilling thrillers, last night, I kind of went crazy yesterday. I actually watched 5 movies. And one of the reasons why is there is a supposed thematic trilogy. If you've been paying attention to the award season the last couple of years, Taylor Sheridan has been very much in the conversation. Sicario was a phenomenal film. and I loved it the first time I saw it. It was up for 3 Oscars. I think it was up for sound, cinematography, and I think there was the screenwriting, I think. It should have been up for a lot of awards, including Best Picture and Supporting Actor for Benicio del Toro. And I watched it again yesterday morning, and my first feeling, it holds steady. It did not drop in my ranking. Second, and that was a Denis Villeneuve film. Yeah. Last year, he went on to make Arrival, and meanwhile, another Taylor Sheridan film came out, and this one did clean up at the Oscars with nominations. I don't think it won anything. Yeah. Hell or High Water. Okay. I really don't think Jeff Bridges was the best choice for an acting nod for that film. He does a great job, but he's done better. Yeah. But Hell or High Water was a great movie. I loved it the first time I saw it. When I watched it again yesterday, I liked it better. It grew in my ratings.
I swear I saw that one with you.
I don't know. I don't think so. I got it from the library.
I can't remember.
I actually saw Sicario in theaters, but I rented Hell or High Water. And then from the library yesterday, I watched the third in the trilogy, Wind River. Ah. We talked about this one also in our previews. Wind River is the unfortunate victim of circumstance. Taylor Sheridan directed it himself. It's his directorial debut. He apparently went around his producers at Sundance, submitted it at Sundance without his producers' knowledge to get more funding to finish the film, while they were trying to angle a deal with Weinstein Company. Oh, yeah. And then the whole Weinstein scandal broke. And between those, Wind River sank without a trace.
Wait, you said Wind River?
Wind River.
Oh, let me replace that. I've got Moon River up here.
No. Anyway, but to my surprise, the critics watched it, and a lot of them have put it in their year-end best of lists. And I really wanted to watch this because there's supposedly a trilogy. I went ahead and watched it on the third, and it's great. It's at least as good as Hell or High Water. It has the potential to grow on you the way that one did. There is a fairly abrupt segue into a flashback late in the film, but otherwise the pacing and storytelling was on par with the other 2 films, and it was well directed. And it's a very chilling, dark film. Takes place on the Wind River Indian Reservation. A young girl has run to her death in the snow. And a game warden finds her, played by Jeremy Renner, and an FBI agent, played by Elizabeth Olsen, is sent in, and she is totally out of her element. And Graham Greene plays the tribal police chief, and so you got a hell of a cast to start with. Yeah. And it's well written, it's well done. The effects are good, such as they are. Yeah. The cinematography is impressive. It's just Sheridan did good with his debut. It's just a crying shame that somebody dropped the ball on that movie, and it died an early death. But so many of the critics are raving, maybe it'll get a second win for the Oscars. But I've got it at number 6, and I was tempted to go higher. The next 2 on my list I love so much I couldn't do it.
Well, number 5, another great film, or so I hear.
Is that so?
which would blow Moon River and Wind River right out of the water. This one is the 4th film in a trilogy.
Well, it's about kids, so they probably don't realize they miscounted.
Well, it is the 4th film, and in a series that I actually admit, no fanfare, no nothing. I was walking by a DVD aisle at Walmart and then saw this and said, "What? No, that can't be right." I just walk up. Wait, no, it exists.
Curse you, OCD!
And it was the film Diary of a Wimpy Kid, Long Haul, which I've heard is incredibly terrible. And when we talk about the ending of the series, I have heard that this film was so bad, it actually killed the film series. Now this makes me even more curious. I have to see this film now. It is that bad that it has killed an entire franchise of films. I do want to see this now.
A franchise fueled by the youth audience.
Yeah, well, which is even more... Yes. Actually, that takes even more.
Exactly. That's like for Christmas, my mom got was given the Land Before Time series. All 14 of them. We did rewatch the first one, and it is a good film.
It
but
is, with the rest of them.
14.
Yeah.
Never underestimate the power of the
money.
Money. The search for more money.
Exactly.
All right. Am I go?
Yep.
All right, and I think this one's listed on your list. Okay. Like I said, it's debatable putting Wind River below this one, but I love the Guardians of the Galaxy series. The first movie came out of nowhere. I did not know what to expect, and I loved it. It was
My mother
great.
actually liked the second one better than the first one.
Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 opens with the aforementioned Baby Groot rocking it to ELO's Mr. Blue Sky in one of the best opening sequences in movie history. The movie itself, I thought was weaker than the first one, but it was still one of the stronger Marvel films, and it was very entertaining. I'm still of two minds about why they changed Star-Lord's parentage. Jason of Spartax is already a colossal dick, and they could have made a really good movie with his original origin story. But they instead said, we'll make Ego your father. But what they did with it, it worked.
It was interesting.
It was interesting. I didn't like that I loved Dave Bautista's portrayal of Drax in the first film, and I think they played him a little too much for laughs the second go-around.
Yeah, well.
But other than that, it's a good film. It has some great emotional highs and lows. Freaking awesome soundtrack.
Yeah, good chemistry.
Yeah, it's good times, and I cannot wait for more Guardians films. And I hope that the Disney deal with Fox that allowed them to get back their characters may possibly mean that one day we'll get to see Kitty Pryde and the Thing on the Guardians in the movies, because I loved reading about them as part of the team in the comics. So, who knows?
Yeah. So, speaking of animated films and Disney, we have a...
Not a film, damn you. It is a piece of crap.
I have... Once in a while, there is something that is exceptional that graces our presence. Something that really can't escape my eye. My eye usually is good about picking these up. I have gone lax. I used to be really good at finding and picking the worst films of the year. Almost as good as he was about picking the best films. But this is one that I cannot ignore. My rusty vision could still pick this up. This would be a good tinfoil collection movie.
Man.
We talk about how studios tend to ruin content that has the potential to be good because they only look at numbers. They only look at things that they perceive people want.
That have potential?
Well, I'm getting there. And this is the product of just numbers crunching and assumptions about millennials. Now, I'm not a millennial. Technically, you are a millennial. I missed millennial by 1 year, according to that. So yeah, you're technically a millennial. You're an old millennial. But
yeah.
So technically, this movie is for you.
Take it back.
And that is...
Granted, I have not seen this movie, but you know.
Emoji Movie. I will see this eventually. I just don't want to pay for it. I think Netflix has it, so I might watch it eventually. It does have my curiosity up. I mean, shoot, it's got Patrick Stewart in it, for goodness sakes. Which is kind of funny considering we have another considering we have another Patrick Stewart credit on this other list of his, which is slightly more elevated.
Poor misguided Patrick Stewart.
But this is a movie about emojis, so they figured, well, all of the millennials, they use the emojis, so therefore we'll get the millennials in it just by having a movie about emojis. And what they don't get about a lot of millennials is that millennials have, not all, but a lot of the millennials they're shooting for have short attention spans. And a lot of the stuff that they got to in this movie was long gone and long out of the public eye by the time they got it out. Because those trends, they move.
Yeah.
They move like that. And if you're trying to hit a 20-something person with a bunch of trends and, what's the word? Cultural snappiness, you're going to have to hit it quick. You're going to have to hit those trends like right now.
You know, though, sometimes against all logic, against all anything that makes sense in the world, you'll have something like this that works.
Yeah.
I actually, last year, a movie came out. It was fun. It was enjoyable. It was watchable. But a movie came out that had me going, why? And even more, why now? And yet, I know from working in the library, the kids love the movie Trolls. Yeah. It has been a huge hit. And I'm like, how? This is something that happened back,
It's got a good soundtrack.
It does. And Oscar nominated, which is another how.
But Emoji Movie is one of those that actually, not only did it have a rep before it came out, it met it with the people who saw it and said, you know what, all of our expectations have been met, and they have been low. And we expected it to be a bad movie, and it delivered as one of the worst movies of the year. So it needs to be mentioned. Who knows, maybe it'll get a nod for Best Animated Feature. More than likely, though, it will get a nod at the Razzies this year.
And sometimes it helps to set your bar low. Yeah. When you're going to see movies.
Just can't do it low enough for Emoji Movie. Yeah.
Well, like, for example, I probably would have hated Ghost in the Shell, but I had already set the bar really low. So it rings in at number 38.
Oh, I thought that was going to be your next number down.
Pretty good. Dark Tower rings in at 36. I set the bar really low. I had the bar really high until it came out, and everyone said, so there. But, some of the others, like Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man Tell No Tales, I got 35. Cars 3, I got 31. Kong Skull Island, 34. These are ones where I had a low bar before, and I genuinely enjoyed them. But if you went in with high hopes, you probably would have been, what the hell am I doing? But one that I went in with high hopes, but frankly, the bar was about here, and then it came out, and then the bar had to go up because everyone loved it. Guardians was actually my number one film of the year until about 2 weeks ago. About a week ago, actually. And then I finally admitted to myself that I was being unfair. And that in reality, Thor Ragnarok deserved to be higher.
I wish I'd seen it.
Thor Ragnarok was talk about things that probably shouldn't have worked. Thor was never my favorite Marvel character. In fact, I was bored by the character.
Well, the movies were lackluster.
The movies made him he grew on me.
Yeah.
Like even the solo Thor movies, even Dark World, offered opportunities for character development and all that kind of stuff. And he grew on me. And I like Chris Hemsworth's take on the character. But nothing prepared me until I started hearing the reviews for what a funny Thor movie could be. Taika Waititi, who you've heard, if you watch this site, you know that I've recently discovered this director. He's one of my new favorites. I loved Hunt for the Wilder People. I loved What We Do in the Shadows. Taika Waititi has a very arch sense of humor, and he's really, 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 really good at injecting humor into almost any scenario. And he's good with his actors, and he gets good performances from what I've seen so far. And he had a great cast to work with. You already had Chris Hemsworth Tom Hiddleston and Mark Ruffalo returning in their roles. You had Jeff Goldblum in a great role, with the Grandmaster, basically, his fun character. And Cate Blanchett, she's a phenomenal actress, but she often comes across as very cold. You very rarely see her playful. So seeing her play a super evil villain as a playful kind of... The way I likened it is she's just come out of being locked in exile for centuries. And she comes out of exile basically acting like the same petulant teenager she might have been when she was exiled in the first place. Blanchett plays her very much as a teenager with world-shattering powers and does a brilliant job. And she has fun doing it. And so that's a big part of it. Everyone involved was having fun. And it also, they don't have nearly as varied a soundtrack as Guardians, but much has been made of Led Zeppelin's Immigrant Song and the way that it was incorporated into the film. And it was incorporated well. The film perfectly sets up Infinity War. It's just a really solid film all around, and easily, I have to admit, it's the best Marvel film of the year. Now, the fact that the two Marvel films are neck and neck right at the top, that's pretty cool. It says something. But I promise that's the last mega blockbuster on my list, at least live action.
And this is the last one that would have been considered good on my list. My last one actually is going to be... the last one I have actually was decent and decently received. But this one was the only one left that was critically received well. And that was the remake of It. We talk about expectations. People had kind of mixed expectations about this going in. But once people started seeing this movie, it started taking people's breath away because it was the old classic, and many people had an attachment to the old It TV series, and it does really still hit home with that character. But this new one is much scarier. This new one is much grittier. It kind of feels more like what you expect from the books. I was quite impressed. As a King fan, I went into it kind of like, I'm not really sure I want to see this. But especially after what happened with Dark Tower. But it was probably the best of what I've heard has come out. Stephen King has had quite a year of adaptations to film and TV series. I mean, there have been like 5 or 6 of them out this year.
Were there that many? I know there were these two, and then you had Mr. Mercedes.
You had Mr. Mercedes. You had the one about the person who was handcuffed to the bed, and I can't remember what that one was. And there was another one that I can't remember the name of it.
That's brilliant.
Netflix, I think, did those. Well, you see, I try and forget that one because it was one that I really did not like. I read the book, and it told me I don't want to see the film.
The weird thing is, I read The Dark Tower, but I have never actually read it. I haven't read Mr. Mercedes either.
Great.
I need to. And actually, before this year, it was one of those ones that I knew by name and reputation, and that was it. But I did finally watch the old TV miniseries in October, and I have not seen the movie. I really want to. It's one of the probably the only good movie he saw that I didn't. I do plan to. I just haven't had a chance to yet. My next one is one that I really, really, really was looking forward to. I really wanted to see, and this is one of the reasons why I saw 5 movies yesterday. I already told you about the trilogy. One of my brothers contacted me and out of the blue suggested we should get together with my other brother and for various reasons, I accepted the challenge. But we took a break from seriousness to watch Revenge of the Nerds, which is a great classic film.
Good film.
But then in the evening, I wanted to watch, and I chose to watch the English dub first, which may or may not have been a good thing.
Oh.
But I finally watched one of the 5 anime that is actually in consideration for an Oscar this year. It's called In This Corner of the World.
Won't win.
I hope it at least gets a nod, though. It better. Number 3 on my list. In This Corner of the World, it follows a young lady named Suzu who is a dreamer. And she's spacey and just kind of floats through life. And for various reasons, she accepts a marriage proposal from a guy who lives in the... She's from Hiroshima. Oh. And she accepts and it is important to know that she is from Hiroshima. She moves a town over to Kure. And most of the action in the film takes place in 1943, 44, 45. You know your history. You have a rough idea of something that will become a part of the story at some point. So I went in there wondering just what I should expect. I went in thinking Grave of the Fireflies. Really, no. It reminded me a lot more of Life is Beautiful. If you ever seen that film, it starts off light and breezy. It's a World War II film, but it's light, breezy, cheerful. Roberto Benigni is... a force of comedy and good feeling and good vibes. And then the film takes a turn. Life is Beautiful is one of the true classics. I would say In This Corner of the World is a nice film. If you liked Life is Beautiful, you will like In This Corner of the World. It's got very simple, almost a watercolor palette, very simple art, but very beautiful. It's got great music. The major issue to be aware of, it's a Shout Factory release, and I don't know if Shout was involved in the dub.
Yeah.
I don't actually know if it had an English dub to hit theaters or not. But it sounded like, and if you watched any of the Charlie Brown specials, you know what I'm talking about. It sounded like a Charlie Brown special. It was not high quality voice acting. In fact, it was awful voice acting. But it got the point across, and I feel like I enjoyed the film enough. I will watch it in Japanese in the next couple of weeks, but I still think that I got enough out of it that I can rate it at number 3. And if you have not seen it, you gotta see it if you get the chance. It's actually pretty cheap and easy to get. And that's the only one of the nominees that we can say that yet. Napping Princess comes out on DVD soon. Mary and the Witch's Flower will be hitting theaters in 2 weeks. And God knows about A Silent Voice. And you better be streaming if you want to see Sword Art Online.
Yeah.
But it's...
or rich.
Or rich. Or for some reason you just want to get all the Aniplex stuff and cost be damned.
There are people like that.
Well, yeah. But, yeah, definitely. And, you know, I said I didn't know anything about Napping Princess, but I didn't realize it's from the same people that did Eden of the East and Standalone Complex, so it should be really good.
Complex ride, right?
So, yeah, anyway, so check that one out. That is probably the most left field one at the top of my list. The last 2 are... But it's also the first that I've got 3... I've got a rating system for an Oscar list of what deserves consideration. Pretty much from number 29 up, they deserve consideration for Best Picture. Number 3 through 1 are the only ones that could win in a just world. In my mind.
World. Not in the real world.
And this one won't even be nominated because it's not a just world. But anyway.
So, this touches on 3 aspects of the year. The first, and this is the film Jeepers Creepers 3. Now,
appropriate.
One, it is an attempted revival of a series. Jeepers Creepers and Jeepers Creepers 2 are actually fairly legit scary movies. The first one actually is very good. I can sort of recommend it. I can sort of not recommend it. And the reason why is on my end note, which is point number 3. Point number 2, it is the end of a series. Because after everything that's come out, I guarantee you this is the end of this property, at least under this director. And number 3, we finally get to another point made by this year, which is about sexual predation, whatever they got, sexual predators.
Yes, that.
And them getting a little bit of having the light shined on them.
Your uppance will come.
And this guy was actually convicted for molesting a 12-year-old. Now, so this is all 3. This is why I have a hard time actually pushing the other 2 films. Because they're good, and I've heard this one is okay, but it's still... Now,
then if it's a 4th theme, then you haven't seen it.
Yeah, that's true. I have not seen it. It has to get way down there for me to get it. There's a part of me that wants to finish this trilogy, but there's another part of me that just doesn't want to support that. It's sort of like how it is with, what is his name? He's a famous one, though. But he actually raped the 14-year-old. God, what was his name? Wasn't He didn't do Exorcist, or did he?
You're talking about Roman Polanski?
Yes. And that was actually a rape charge. Now, and he's considered very well loved by many. And a lot of his films are acclaimed. So I guess I can't really say what's
I'm not sure many people put Jeepers Creepers on par with, say, Rosemary's Baby. Or,
what do you know? I mean, they might be the
you
same
probably
film.
put it on par with Chinatown. I remember you didn't like that one.
Chinatown was boring. But that's my thought on Jeepers Creepers 3 and why I have it on my list.
Actually, you know what? It's interesting that you do that because that's kind of a segue. I hate to say this, but I can't remember who directed In This Corner of the World offhand. But 3 of my top 10 films are directed by women. So that's actually something that has also been a big deal this year, is that one of the reasons why it's mostly men who have been accused is the story goes, they're the ones in power. And, there's a lot of truth to that. And, of course, Zoe Lister-Jones directed Band-Aid, Patty Jenkins directed Wonder Woman, and that was probably the most famous example this year. But number 2, written and directed by Greta Gerwig, I have one of my favorite live-action film of the year is Lady Bird, which is a really good semi-autobiographical film by Gerwig that stars Saoirse Ronan in a role that is guaranteed to be nominated for an Oscar. I think she won the Globe last night.
Oh, wow.
She is a very talented actress.
I heard a lot of awards tweet about her.
Yeah.
And about the
very
movie.
gifted actress. And she plays the role perfectly. It's very well done. Gerwig herself is a very talented actress that I like a lot. But she tends to be in stuff that's a little too quirky, you might say. Like, it's not really my... the kind of thing like I was saying with Band-Aid. It might be your cup of tea, it might not. If it's not, you'll like it, but you won't love it. Maggie's Plan was one of those movies for me. But Lady Bird is a great film. I loved it from start to finish. Her best friend looked so familiar, and I didn't even realize it until later on I found out it was Jonah Hill's sister. Wow. I was like, what? And then another person who's gotten a ton of praise, she did lose the Globe. Allison Janney won the Globe for I, Tonya, for supporting actress, Tonya. But Laurie Metcalf has gotten a ton of praise playing Lady Bird's mother, and she does a great job. She plays the harried mother who... She's not a positive she's not a positive woman, not at all. But she does a great job. Tracy Letts is the father. He does a great job. Timothée Chalamet, the guy that everyone's raving about right now, has a fine supporting role. It's a fun little movie. It makes phenomenal use of soundtrack. I've said before many times there needs to be an best use of music and Oscar, music of film Oscar. Logan could be a contender. Band-Aid would definitely be a contender. Guardians Volume 2 probably would win. Thor would be a contender. Lady Bird would be a contender. In This Corner of the World would be a contender. Good. And my number one would be a strong contender for this. We need that Oscar. But, it was a wonderful film. And actually, I saw it in a pairing. I went to theaters the last time I got to go this year. I went to theaters and saw these two movies back to back. We'll get to my number one in a minute, but that was one of the best days of the movies I've had. So,
what did Woody Allen do this year? Speaking of
Wonder Wheel.
I
wanted to see that. It was an acclaimed film.
You see, last one I had actually gotten to was Cafe Society, and the reason why I had asked about that is because
I like
that. When you talked about you were talking about music, and despite him, and he also hits the sexual predator type list,
but he has an ear for music. He really does.
He is definitely there. There it is, Wonder Wheel.
Yeah.
Okay, I've got that sitting there, so now I can remember to put it on my wish list. But this one is about 3 films, but only one made the cut for this list. Because all 3 of these films try to do the same thing, which is revamp a franchise. You have Leatherface, which attempted poorly to revamp the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Which should be left to die.
You had Amityville, The Awakening, which not only tried to revamp it, it also tried to continue it, which almost fit, but it kind of went. So the last one didn't hit home, but managed to go, this is actually okay. And that is Jigsaw. Now, I was satisfied with Saw being dead, because that means I've got all the films. Matter of fact, this whole theme is because I am kind of PO'd about these people taking these long dead things and reviving them.
But you skipped some of those too.
Oh yeah, you had T2 with Train Spotting. Shoot, Paddington 2 came out this year. These are all things that are there. And
what about your favorite one there?
I'm not even mentioning that.
You talked about Emoji Movie, but not the...
The Emoji Movie I have higher on my list of things I would like to watch.
And yet I bet the wife will drag you to see the third one.
Well, she didn't do it on the second one.
Oh, okay.
But, then we've got, you got Flatliners, who did that, but Jigsaw is the one that actually did decent. Mm-hmm. And as a revival goes, it's not a long dead series. It's like 4 or 5 years later. It's not that much gone, but it's out of a 7-movie series. I just don't want to have to reopen up the gates that had already been closed. It's like, I've got this completed. All these series are getting revived. Roseanne, Will and Grace, all these series are coming up for new things. They were going to revive Kenshin. Well, not anymore. Again, sexual predator. It's kind of sad, actually. This is the year of the sexual predator, apparently. Well, it's not the year for them. It's the year where they get caught.
Yes.
And that was the other thing. The creator of Kenshin. He was child pornography.
Which is one of the most cruelly ironic things about the whole thing with Wind River. Because they're investigating a rape victim, and the film is all about trying to bring her attacker to justice, and yet the film was buried. I wonder if that was done partly because
on purpose.
Yeah.
Maybe Weinstein had something to do with it.
He might have. That very well might explain it.
Well, you've got one
Okay.
more to go.
Well,
Though I don't know why you didn't put the other one that the studio released on your top 10 list.
well, it's and actually, I was going to say real quick. You're talking about like revivals and that sort of thing, and continuations. Just to give you an idea of the numbers we're dealing with of the films that I have on my list this year that are sequels or clear reboots or a long-standing franchise where they attempted to start a new franchise. I have got Ghost in the Shell, Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man Tell No Tales, Kong Skull Island, Justice League, Cars 3, the Lego Batman movie, Split, Beauty and the Beast, Star Wars The Last Jedi, T2 Trainspotting, an inconvenient sequel, Truth to Power, Spider-Man Homecoming, Logan, Wonder Woman, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, Thor Ragnarok. That's quite a few, just fitting that one theme alone. And then, what's up? Oh,
no,
okay. And I'm going to make a couple last comments before I do my number one. One, when you watch all the top 10, sometimes I'll take a break to do the honorable mentions and whatnot. Just to give you an idea, I started with 10, but my top 20 will be my honorable mentions. Gifted, Star Wars The Last Jedi, T2 Trainspotting, an inconvenient sequel, Truth to Power, Get Out, France, Megan Levy, The Big Sick, Spider-Man Homecoming, and Detroit were all excellent films. They all had something or another that kept them out of my top 10, but they were all very good films worth at least one look. And I know we're probably just got a ton of hate mail from all you Jedi haters out there, but they're
Or all the people who really love Star Wars, actually.
yeah, well, to be honest, Star Wars always hovers between 30 and 40 on my list. I'm not a huge Star Wars fan. I like them a lot, and if you bear in mind the last two were like number 40, the last two lists are like 100 movies long. So it's not like it's, this is, 19 out of 39, could have been better, could have been worse, but I did see it twice in theaters, so there.
I can feel your anger. I am defenseless. Take your weapon. Strike me down with all of your hatred, and your journey towards the dark side will be complete.
Yeah.
And then, anyway, number one, the film that did win a Globe, that won a Globe, it's guaranteed to win at the Oscars, that's guaranteed to be up for 2 Oscars, and that's almost guaranteed to only be up for 2 Oscars, which is going to be complete and total bullshit. Pixar's Coco is the best film of the year, bar none. And what's more, it's probably the 3rd best film Pixar has ever made. I wouldn't say it's as good as Up. And it's about on par with WALL-E. I may still like The Incredibles better, but I don't say The Incredibles is as good. It's like number 4 in terms of quality. But Coco was a phenomenal movie. It was great. I loved it. It had wonderful pacing, plotting. The music was very well incorporated. It was gorgeous. The film was gorgeous.
Yeah.
It's just, and it had a great story. It had some twists that were actually well handled. And it's just, there were more twists than you would expect in a family film, And in a just world, it would be a front-runner for Best Picture. But the Academy has its head up its ass when it comes to animation. It'll be lucky to get a nod for Best Picture.
Well, put a Pixar film at number 1 and it wasn't Cars 3?
Cars 3 was number 31. Now, I will say, Cars 3 was good.
Oh.
It was good. It was legitimately a good movie. It's just the Cars franchise is not Pixar at its best. Cars 3 is definitely better than Cars 2. That's not in dispute. And the fact that Pixar managed to get number 1 and 31 on my list, Disney still is more impressive. They did better last year with Zootopia and Moana in terms of overall balance. But Coco is just great film.
What did Disney?
Remember Me is going to be up for original song. Coco's going to be up for animated feature. In a just world, it would be up for Best Picture, Original Screenplay, and at least half a dozen other awards.
Did Disney put out this year?
I don't think they really did any under their own banner.
Huh. Yeah.
Now, instead, this year we have such luminaries as Ferdinand and the Emoji Movie.
Yay!
2 Lego movies. Although Lego Batman,
Actually, hey,
Lego
Batman
Batman
awesome.
is number 30 on my list. I loved it.
And
But-
you can't. The Ninjago sounds kind of campy because I'm used to
Yeah.
the other source material. It could
looks
be really
fun.
good, yeah.
Yeah, and some of these others look like they could. I was shocked that the Globes nominated The Boss Baby, but I've been told it's worth watching.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'll get to it eventually. But again, with the caliber of the anime up, the fact that they're probably not going to even get, if anyone does, it'll be Mary and the Witch's Flower only because it's Ghibli-ish,
Yeah.
which is bullshit. I have read A Silent Voice. The manga is phenomenal. The movie
had
is
some-
gorgeous. I need to see it, but from what I've seen, it's gorgeous. And it's not even probably going to be considered, and that's criminal.
Makes me almost want to pirate again.
One last note on my list. One last note is the film that rings in at number 29, the one that a lot of the critics have raved about. This is one of the sharpest departures from the critics for me all year. The other one, arguably, is The Circle, because I really liked it and put it at number 27, and a lot of people hated it. But the critics loved A Ghost Story. They raved about it. We've mentioned before on this channel that by his standard of artsiness, it meets the Fellini standard of artsiness, and then some.
Pretentiousness.
The best thing about the film, and this gets back to the whole sexual harassment thing, the best thing about the film is that Casey Affleck is killed 5 minutes into it. But it has some goodness to it. It's a very interesting. It's an original film.
Right to that.
It's very original, and I like the ending. The way they finally brought it all together. But there is a literal leap in the film that if you don't go on that leap, it'll lose you for the end of the film. And I do not. I do not. They could cut 5 minutes out and it wouldn't change a thing. It's one of those films where they just hold the camera. Just hold the camera.
Well. I'm going to wrap up.
Okay.
I got one more, and then we're going to wrap up because we've got one more thing to do, and we need to move. So, mine's been mostly about sequels and revivals. And one of those that actually was successful, and I can't really make a list without showing my love for B movies. And there was one this year that came out in a series that had a decent trilogy, and then got revived with an additional number 3 because there was a lot of issues with the original number 3, and has been plodding along since that. It had an upturn at 6, and now Camp Blood 7 has come out this year. Camp Blood 7, I think, is not a tell as to whether the series is going to keep going, but at the same time, I don't think that it's enough to kill the series. It's one of those that was a decent offering. It was not the offering that made me go, I might actually see there's some renewed energy that's Camp Blood 666 brought. But 7 showed that the series will probably still continue. I look forward to Camp Blood 8, which will probably be released sometime next year.
Look for it at the Oscars the following year.
I know that we're going to talk a little bit about that on Movies Galore later on, and I do look forward to those talks as well. It is a guilty pleasure series. So I wanted to make that as the ending shot. You know, you have Coco, you've got all these nice ones, and then I've got Camp Blood, which did spend probably the first 15 minutes of the movie with a topless woman sitting on sunning herself, basically. Which, you know. If you're into that sort of thing. So, with that being said, we will see you again, and this time from a new location. So, please like, subscribe, and share. And thank you very much, and we'll see you on the next one.
When we return to our planet, the High Court may well sentence you to torture.